Sorry. All right. Happy Tuesday, everybody. I was supposed to be podcasting, but I had the time messed up because it was East Coast time. For some reason, I thought the East Coast had already gone to daylight savings. So I totally messed up this podcast. But that means that I have a free hour. And before I dive into other things, I just wanted to hop on. I never come on live. So today I just wanted to read my Substack article about growing up white supremacist in light of everything that's happening in America right now, in light of the Charlie Kirk funeral and a lot of the rhetoric around just crazy propaganda that we haven't seen in America forever. As a former white supremacist, I'm seeing more and more blatant in-your-face racism than I've ever seen in my life. So I just wanted to share, and I'd love for you guys to chime in. Anybody who's watching, hey there. I never come on TikTok live. This is maybe like the second time I've ever come on here myself. I do have a guest who will be on with me tomorrow night, but if you have any questions, want to say hi or anything, you can find this article on my Substack. I've lifted the paywall on it, so it's completely free, and it's just entitled, I Was White Supremacist. So if you have any questions when I get done with this article, then pop in and say hi. So I was a white supremacist, Lamanites, Cain, and my white and delightsome ancestry. And I do want to note that in this article, I use terms like Indian, squaw, and just a few other racially charged words and phrases throughout this piece. And the reason I did that was to convey the mindset I had as a child growing up in Mormonism. I didn't feel like it would be accurate for me to use more appropriate, kind, compassionate, empathetic phrasing. I was trying to give the firsthand perspective of someone who was raised in this organization. So wanted to make sure that I stayed true to that childlike indoctrination that I had growing up in Mormonism. I do not think or speak in this way today, and I try at all times to use verbiage that respects my First Nation friends and neighbors and encourage others to do the same. It is important for this article for me not to use or to use the tone reflective of my Mormon community at the time. Hi, Maggie. Oh, it's not Maggie, it's Ms. Magic. Hello, Ms. Magic. There is a cloudy memory stored in the recesses of my brain of a large Navajo powwow I attended as a child. My dad was a journalist, so it's likely my family was there because he was reporting on the event for the news station. My mom had sewn me a squaw dress for the occasion, which was bright pink fabric with silver and turquoise rickrack stripes zigzagging around the skirt. Somewhere in an old photo album, there's a faded picture of me posing in the grass, dancers behind me in the distance, sunlight bouncing off the metallic rickrack and lighting my platinum braids and blue eyes. I fell in love with Navajo culture at the powwow, insisting on being an Indian princess for Halloween the next year, and greeting my kindergarten friends with a raised hand and a guttural yatta hai. I did that constantly. After going to that powwow, I would never say hi anymore. I refused to just be like, hi guys. I would always go to school and like, yatta hai. Anyway, my first grade teacher began reading the Little House on the Prairie series the next year, and I waited with anticipation to hear the descriptions of the natives they encountered. Hi guys, thank you. I'm reading my I Was a White Supremacist article. So if you have any questions, hop in. Okay, so we're reading Little House on the Prairie. I waited with anticipation to hear the descriptions of the natives they encountered. I vaguely remember a line of horses carrying an entire naked tribe across the plains in one chapter. the discovery of beads and an ant's nest, and an old Indian man who came to the cabin one day. As a young girl living a very tame, sorry, as a young girl living a very tame, often boring life in the American suburbs of the late 1970s, the wild and uninhibited migratory culture of the natives made my imagination run wild. I had never in my life seen humans behave like the dancers at the powwow had, arms flung toward the sky, legs pounding the earth, leather fringe, feathers, and hair throbbing to the beat of the drums. They had seemed free in ways I had never comprehended a human could. My German Lutheran dad would waltz me around the living room to Lawrence Welk songs on Sundays after church in a very restrained, very demure manner, nothing like the Navajo dancers. That was as untamed as my life got. I would stare at my popcorn ceiling at night, daydreaming about being kidnapped by the Navajos, and picture myself clad in soft buckskin, chasing quail through prairie grass with a smile. Their way of being seemed quite superior to mine. One Wednesday afternoon in my Mormon primary class, the weekly youth ministry program. I don't know why I can't read today, guys. I've been filming too many podcasts this week. Sorry. In my Mormon primary class, we learned a new song and a new scripture story, and I was on the edge of my seat listening from the moment my primary teacher, a young Charlie's Angels type of mom with blonde hair to her waist and a stunning polyester dress, held up a glossy poster of an Indian man. She read from the primary children's Book of Mormon about a family of brothers who were always in a fight, how the younger brother listened to Heavenly Father and was good and righteous, while the two younger brothers were evil and awful. She showed us pictures of Laman and Lemuel, dark and bearded with dirty hair, and Nephi, white and muscular, his blonde hair falling in soft curls at his shoulders. She explained how the Indians were the great-great-great-grandkids of these two evil brothers, how Heavenly Father gave them black skin as a curse to make sure nobody had babies with them. I don't know if I say in this here, but I believe I was in first grade when I had this lesson that I can still remember in my Mormon Sunday school class. Once her story ended, she said amen and turned the time over to the pianist and chorister to teach the song. It had hand actions to go with it, sort of like a rudimentary sign language routine. We started by pounding our fist, I can't do it because I'm holding my phone, in a flattened hand like a rock beating a book, then raised two fingers behind our heads like an Indian's feathers. The moves reminded me of the actions of the powwow dancers, the song ending with us folding our arms and bobbing our heads like I imagined a chief might do. It was energizing to hear the many voices of my primary mates belting out the Indian song about the bad Lamanites, and I would spend the rest of my week wearing my Indian princess dress and singing Book of Mormon stories that my teacher tells to me are about the Lamanites in ancient history. Totally encourage you guys to go find a video of Book of Mormon stories and listen to it. Yeah, can you ask me a question? Let me answer one question really quick, then I'll get back to reading. You've mentioned before that there's a connection between Mormonism and white supremacy. I'm curious how widespread that was within that community. That's a good question. I'm glad you asked that. You cannot be Mormon and not be a white supremacist because the Book of Mormon teaches that brown skin is a curse from God. It teaches that people from Africa are cursed with black skin, and it teaches that the indigenous populations of America are black-skinned, and that white skin is supreme way of being. Not only that, but it goes a step farther and it teaches that Black people were cursed in the past life, the pre-existent state, and I'll actually get into that in the article here. So you cannot be Mormon and not be a white supremacist. All Mormons are white supremacists because the Mormon doctrine teaches white supremacy from the core, and I'll get there. Okay, so the Book of Mormon story song I learned when I was in about first grade. So I went home and sang it in front of the mirror in the hallway all the time. The next time we were in town running errands, I saw a native man walking along the sidewalk, and an interesting thing happened. Again, I'm in about first grade here, right? The curiosity I had previously felt for the natives in my area was replaced by a new sense of understanding. My primary teacher had done a thorough job of explaining the black skin curse and the great atrocities the ancestors of the Native Americans had committed in the Book of Mormon. With my new understanding, my old curiosity was gone, buried under fear and disgust. Remember, I'm a first grade child when I'm being indoctrinated in white supremacy here. As a barely 6-year-old child, I peered through the car window at a stranger walking down the sidewalk who happened to be brown-skinned, and I knew that God had made me better than him. I felt a little afraid when we stopped near the curb to wait for Dad, which allowed me to see his face at closer range. I looked away and hunkered down in my seat. Hello, Seattle. Okay, may I ask why you white liberals suck so much? BLM and illegal alien kite. Okay, sorry. Why did I read that out loud? Sorry, guys. There you go. That's deleted. And be nice or you're blocked. Okay, I of course didn't know at the time, but my indoctrination into America's most racist cult had begun, and I was on my way to a life of white supremacy. Mormon doctrine teaches many white supremacist concepts. And yes, Mormonism does have some unique teachings like the Book of Mormon, but what we see going on in evangelicism and some of the bigger Baptist churches is just the same, in some ways even worse than Mormonism. So a lot of those religions are equally as white supremacist as my Mormon church that I grew up in. Okay, Mormon doctrine teaches many white supremacist concepts. Here are the few of the most core racist teachings I learned and what they meant to me as a young woman growing up in the LDS church. Number 1, Book of Mormon, 2 Nephi 5:20. The verse says, "Wherefore the word of the Lord was fulfilled, which he spake unto me, saying that inasmuch as they, Laman and Lemuel, will not hearken unto thy words, they shall be cut off from my presence. And behold, they were cut off from the presence of the Lord, and he caused a cursing to come upon them. Yea, even a sore cursing because of their iniquity. For behold, they had hardened their hearts against him, that they had become like unto a flint. Wherefore, as they were white and exceedingly fair and delightsome, that they might not be enticing unto my people, the Lord did cause a skin of blackness to come upon them. And thus saith the Lord God, I will cause that they shall be loathsome unto thy people, save they shall repent of their iniquities." This taught me that all Native Americans were descended from evil, murderous savages whose children's children's children would be cursed forever unless they accepted the Mormon gospel and repented. Here, let me take a little break and read a couple comments here. Hello, Haywood. Hey, New Jersey. Jen, I'm from Scottsdale. 2 Jens from Scottsdale. Let me just go ahead and ban this guy. Okay. You guys, thanks for hanging out. I think this is the second time I've ever done a YouTube live. I'm live over on TikTok a lot, but I'm never on here. I don't know why. I don't know. As gay ex-Mormon atheist with severe religious trauma, same, John, I feel you. I deeply appreciate your courage. Thanks so much. Yeah, I left because of their stance on LGBTQ and have never been back. So there's a lot of problems. The day that I left the Mormon church, which was 7 years ago, it'll be 8 years this October, I remember sitting there and thinking, the lesson was entitled The Evils of Homosexuality. And I remember sitting there thinking, like, I already have enough reasons to hate people, right? Like, I don't know. Sometimes it's part of our human nature to be competitive. Also, I grew up in a really hateful church, so I don't know, maybe humans aren't naturally hateful. But it's like I come to church to learn how to love people. I come to church for that compassion and to learn to be Christ-like was a word that we used to use in my religious community. And here I was sitting in church just learning how to hate people. So I got up and walked out, and I've never been back. But yeah, that was the biggest thought in my head, John, was, well, good. I'm glad you found my channel. And I don't often come live, so I know I'm a little bit rusty here. Denim Revolution all the way. I've been writing to senators. No, Chuck, I don't still believe in a God at all. I am a complete atheist, and let me tell you what that means to me. I see zero evidence for a God, and especially not the type of God that anybody describes God being. Like, maybe there is something. Maybe there's a life force. Maybe there was something that sparked everything that we see existing. But to explain it as a man or a person, I think would be grossly inaccurate. I don't believe that there's anything. I don't believe that there is any divine being that sparked creation or created us or sits up on a cloud in heaven watching over us. And I know that a lot of people who are religious think that that seems depressing. A lot of my friends are atheist and nihilists, just like me, by just never thinking about God or religion or anything. And I will say that after spending 48 years inside religion, I was 44 when I left the Mormon church. I converted to Christianity for 4.5 years, and I just broke up with Jesus 2 years ago. After spending 48 years in religion, I am much happier now than I was when I was religious. I embrace life on a day-to-day basis, and I say that my religion, life is my religion, and that's it. That's all I need. So, thank you. Okay, here, let me scroll some more. Okay, I'm rusty at lives on YouTube. Sorry, you guys are like my first experiment with going live on YouTube. I know I went one other time. Okay, let me put it here so we can see. I just discovered you today, but I wanted to tell you not to turn your back on God and Jesus. So Miriam, to say that shows religious supremacy. That's completely intolerable. You have a myth system that works for you, but it doesn't work for everybody else. And when you see somebody who says, I am perfectly happy, my life is great, and this is what I authentically, with full integrity, believe in, respect that. Hold space for the fact that you could be completely wrong. Your God and Jesus could be fake, and that could ruin my life. So I know that that's coming from a place of good intent, but I have zero tolerance for any type of religious superiority on here. So please be kind. If you have a religious belief, then keep that to yourself. My granddad always said, never discuss politics or religion. I guess I do both, but okay. Are you familiar with Deconstruction Zone here on YouTube? I don't know that I found him. Nope. Thank you. I believe in nature. Okay, let's click on this comment here. If nature is sick of us humans, it will throw another meteor on Earth, whooping the humans out. Rocket Jr., I can give that an amen for sure. For sure. Okay, started watching this video because of the narcissism problems, which I can relate to. I'm fascinated looking into minds and goals of white supremacy. I'm going to get back to my white supremacist article in just for a second here. Have I been protesting? Yes, I have. I've participated in 3 protests here locally, and I've spent a lot of time reaching out to senators. I have confidentiality agreements with some of them that I've been in touch with. So, hello, Switzerland. I've always wanted to visit Switzerland. 12 years ago, hello, other ex-Mormon. Hello. Okay, here, let me just see if there's another comment. I'm going to get back to reading the article, and if anybody has any questions. Okay, so Miriam, I just want to read your comment again. I'm sorry, I just believe everyone should create their own relationship with God or whomever, or whatever good they believe, as long as they were happy. I did really enjoy your story. Thank you so much. Miriam, I just want to point out that when you feel sorry for somebody that they don't believe in God, that is coming from a place of superiority. And that is the problem. Faithism, religious discrimination, is currently causing more hate and death and destruction worldwide than anything else, than any disease, than any natural disaster. Religious people thinking that they're better than people that aren't religious, even if that's coming from a good place, even if it's coming from, I just want your life to be happier, we need to stop pushing our religion on other people. I don't push my atheism on anybody, ever, for any reason. Discover your own truth. So don't feel sorry for somebody. But I know that that's coming from a sweet place, Miriam. So no judgment at all. I felt something off about Mormon people. They've always been nice. But again, something was off. Yeah, and that's really sad because humans are nice. And Mormons in general are some of the nicest people in the world. But religious people often have some doctrines behind those happy facades that can be really problematic things. Not everybody does. Yeah, here with the atheists. Yeah, faithism is horrible. You know, the thing is, before the scientific method, everybody had their own religions. You know, humans created religions around the world. Some humans, you know, like the ancient Norse gods were trees and clouds and different animals and things like that. Humans, religion caught on. People created all kinds of religions. And as ancient human tribes would intersect, they would share their ideas with one another, but they held space for the fact that their faith was their faith. I have a lot of Navajo friends, and my Navajo friends talk about the religion as mythology. They'll say it just like that. In Navajo mythology, in Navajo religion, they don't talk about it like it's the absolute truth. That's their belief system, but they're not trying to push it on me at all. And unfortunately, with the scientific method, people came along and thought, now I can prove Christianity. You hear a lot of debates about religion currently, like any channel on YouTube. You can find so many different places where people are debating religion, debating the existence of Jesus. I'm sure that some of you have seen this series called The Truth Project. It may be like 15 years old or so, where he goes out to prove the Bible, you know? So we have all of this. We're applying the scientific method now to Christianity. So we've proven that Christianity is right. It's the only true religion. Everything else is wrong. And that's certainly not the case. Christianity is still a myth system. And the world in America today would be much better if Christians approached their faith as a belief. Actually, that's the secret to how I'm in a mixed faith marriage, because my partner, Kevin, is Lutheran, and he's a deeply devout believer. He's a literalist. He believes in Adam and Eve. He believes in the flood. He believes like in all the stuff, Jesus and the crucifixion and the resurrection. So he is a literal biblical Lutheran, and I am an atheist, nihilist. I do not believe in God. I think that the Bible is fake. And the way that we have a functioning relationship is that Kevin recognizes that his religion is a mythology, it is a faith, and that he could be wrong and that I could be right. And I hold space for the fact that, you know, who knows? None of us know until we die. When I die, Kevin could be right and I could be wrong. And that right there, that's where we need to come back to. We need to come back to a space where the people of faith stop jumping into faith as facts. That's how I was in 44 years of Mormonism. My faith was a fact, and I was trying to push it on everybody. I believe God is real. God never wanted a religion. He wanted a relationship. And what if God is a she? What if God doesn't exist? What if the earth is our God? I really wish there was a heaven. There are some folks I would really like to see again, but I have read every holy book and I just don't see. Yeah, so I would say as an atheist, I feel like that too. Like, Aditya, what a beautiful name. Like, we all have people around us that we love, and we see through archaeology that some of the very first religious relics that we had were around fertility and burial. So imagine if you're an ancient human, tens of thousands of years ago, how miraculous birth would be. So certainly, like, there must be a god. That's why there's so many fertility gods. The oldest religious relic that we have, it's the Venus de Wildendorf, I believe is how you say it. And then we see that spread throughout the world. So it's this kind of chubby little woman with, you know, little stumpy arms and stumpy legs. It was carved out of stone. And that's our oldest religious relic, just because childbirth and conception and the whole thing was so miraculous. And then the next step in religion that we see as humans were inventing religion is things that are like burial rites and burial relics. So we start to see some evidence of, you know, this person dies and they do this thing, and we have that in the archaeological record. And then another person dies and they do the same things, and they're burying people with seashells and hairbrushes and jewelry and different things that a corpse doesn't need. And I just think that that's so human, right? Like, whether it's in modern times or a million years ago. Have you ever watched like the Discovery Channel and seen elephants when another elephant dies? I mean, elephants aren't humans. They, you know, they don't have all of the things that we have, but they are deeply connected to one another, and they grieve the loss of somebody in their, is it a herd? Is it a pack? What do elephants have? The elephant tribe. I think it's a herd, right? Ancient humans, when they lost somebody that they loved, they grieved, and they began to tell themselves stories and to do things to honor those dead people and to honor the passage. So yeah, I think that's the hardest part of letting go of religion is, well, what about my grandma who died? What if I never see her again? And I have people all the time who ask me, wouldn't you rather believe in Jesus and go to church all the time? And then if you die, at least you go to heaven rather than choosing atheism. I didn't choose atheism. It's completely authentic to me. And I personally would rather embrace the people around me, realizing that every day that I have with them could be the last day, realizing that this earth life may be the only thing that we have. Maybe life is it, and then we die and I'm not with grandma. I'd rather live like that and then die and there is something than live my whole life thinking I'm going to be with grandma in heaven and then die and there is no heaven and I didn't spend my time with grandma like I should have. So yeah, orcas are like that too. There's so many animals. Oh, they carry their baby body for miles while they're grieving. I mean, death is hard. An elephant never forgets. Yep. Is that Dumbo? I believe the gospel has some worthwhile stuff, regardless of what God is. Be free to incorporate the good parts and leave the bad parts. Speed, I think that that's a really good way to live. I think that that's how a lot of people are. There's a lot of secular Christians right now, too. What do they call it? Rabbinical Yeshuites? Yeah, Shannon, I kind of feel like that, too. I draw great comfort in the idea of being part of the infinite, whatever that is. 2 years ago, I had a major surgery, and then after the surgery, I bled out. I'm called Life Take Two, and I always joke that I don't talk about a lot of this stuff on my channels, but I've actually had 5 actual brushes with death. One of them actual near-death experience where I had no vitals for 3 minutes. But 2 years ago, I had abdominal reconstructive surgery, and it was the first time that I went into this like major medical thing without a belief in God. And after the surgery, my wound tore. I was cut from my sternum down to my pelvic bone in my abdomen, and the wound tore internally. And I was in my hospital room alone, and I heard dripping, and I was like on all kinds of medication and stuff, but the dripping got louder and louder, and I realized that it was my blood. So I pushed the nurse's button, and they came running in, and then I blacked out because I had lost so much blood. And it's funny that facing death as an atheist was actually more comforting than facing death as a Christian, because the other times I was always worried about, well, am I going to make it to heaven? Am I good enough to be there with Jesus? And just so much doubt. But as an atheist, it's just like, well, I've lived my life and that's it. That was fun. Now I'm done. So I don't know. I felt so much more. Am I lagging? Oh, why is here? Let me just make sure that I'm so sorry. Okay, tell me. Okay, will you guys tell me? Yeah, death is a comfort when you think it is a meaningless sensation. Wise, yeah. Yeah, faith supremacy is wild, and it's kind of built into a lot of religions, right? Do you guys want to hear the rest of the white supremacy article? I put it on pause. I'm halfway through. Thanks, Brielle. You cannot tame the internet. That is so true. I'm sorry I keep stumbling over my words today. I have done so many podcasts, so many recordings in the past few days that I've actually blown out my vocal cords, and I should probably be resting. But okay, is it good now? So when you say good, tell me if it's good or bad right now before I proceed. Hello, San Jose. Yes, I was. Okay, so that's a great question. I'm going to put this up on the screen here. May I ask if you're polite to non-whites when you're white nationalist? Yes. Yes. And I have a video that I'm scripting that I'll post later this week on closeted racism. I think that, I was a white supremacist, so it's hard to know like what people who never were think and how they interact with other humans, because now I'm always just like, look at me, I'm not a white supremacist anymore. Like, it feels so good just not to live with hate. But I will say that when that was my life and my worldview, I certainly didn't hate other people. Like, I didn't hate Black people. I didn't hate the Native Americans around me. I didn't hate people from India or whoever. I didn't hate them. I just felt better than them. So yeah, like I would smile, and because you're supposed to love one another. I post a photo on a lot of my videos when I talk about being a white supremacist. Um, I was just thinking I could go grab these from my jewelry box, but I wonder if they would flag my algorithm. I found my Dixie flag pins. I wore these little brooches everywhere I went all the time for like, I don't know, 5-year time span. I was super into these Dixie flag pins that I wore everywhere. And I just found them. And the funny thing is, like, no, I wasn't hateful and I would smile at people to their faces, but I would just be thinking how sad it was that they weren't like me. So, and I think that that's what I'm trying to convey when I do my videos about white supremacy. You can have a neighbor right next door to you, because we all have in our head that white supremacy is like neo-Nazis, that it's people, it's like the skinheads, and they have, the German flag out in front of their house and things like that. That's what we have in our heads. But most American white supremacists are actually Christian. So that's what I'm trying to convey to you guys, right? It's funny. So yeah, the Dixie flag. um, what's funny is I went to visit my family in Oregon, and they were all Mormon and everything, but they weren't like super into like the Dixie flag. And they, I think, hadn't embraced the white supremacy as much as my husband and I had. And I was just wearing like this Confederate flag t-shirt that I had. And it said something about like how Abraham Lincoln should have never been born. And I remember my parents being horrified. They're like, Jenny, what the? I was like, well, okay, Lisa. Lisa, I'm trying to scroll. Yeah, so much covert supremacy. So that's the script that I'm working on. That'll be my next video. As a woman who had a Black daughter, Lisa. I'm really sorry. I am so sorry. Um, I was going to do a video next week about being on the other side of my community and all of the hate that they've heaped on me. Um, because it's funny, when you're in the in group, then everybody loves you and you're all kind of feeding each other, right? It's like this frenzy of people feeding hate. And then I left the Mormon church, and then I also stepped away from Christianity. I'm an atheist, and now I'm the victim of hate from my own family. So, like in some of my videos, I talk about my cousin that we shunned and that I personally wouldn't even let him come to Thanksgiving dinner. And he was only 20 years old, and he lost his life. He was killed by police in Utah. So Thanksgiving in November, he was killed on New Year's Day, and that was heartbreaking. It was the greatest tragedy, probably of my entire life. And then my family started doing that stuff to me. I'm no longer invited to Thanksgiving. I haven't been to a Thanksgiving or Christmas or anything since I left the Mormon church. So the stuff that I heaped out on people is now being heaped out on me by my community. And that's one of the reasons why I do everything that I do. I sometimes think that, like, if my family and my community had treated me kindly after I left the church, then I wouldn't do anything that I do. But the hate, the way that I hit rock bottom, I was sleeping in my car, all the things that I went through with my ex-husband, and seeing the ugliness of my community firsthand was absolutely terrifying. And it's actually why I do everything that I do. Lisa, that's horrible. And I'm really sorry that we live in a world like that. Do you guys know that like the current feminist movement, are the motto that a lot of us use is for our daughters? And every single day, whether I'm doing a video, whether I'm doing an interview, the books that I'm working on, I work with a nonprofit that helps women who've survived domestic violence. Everything that I do, I can't change my life and I can't erase my past. I can't erase. I have a friend who was killed by her husband in a murder-suicide. He was a Fort Bragg vet. I have friends who are no longer here because of domestic violence and other things. I can't change what happened to them. I can't change my past, but I can change the life for our daughters. We can all change the world and build a better future for our daughters. And that should be our focus. The things that some of us have gone through are horrible. And I don't know if you've heard the phrase post-traumatic growth. When you've gone through something horrible, sometimes it turns you into a monster. Sometimes you want retaliation, you want vengeance, you want revenge. But sometimes those traumas actually get you to a place that you may not have ever reached without that horrible thing that you went through. It's called post-traumatic growth. It's a psychological term. And I have tried very hard not to let the things that I've gone through break me, but, like make lemonade out of the lemons. And the lemonade specifically that I'm trying to make is a better future for all of our children. Yeah, we can control our actions and our reactions to the rest of the world. Yeah, but okay, so Savax, but we do have an impact on the rest of the world. I should put my glasses on, but I don't know where they are. Sorry, I'm having a hard time reading the comments. I'm a grandma. My eyes are not that great anymore. People rising up against their BS, oppressive leaders all over the world. It's great to see. Yep. Honestly, like Donald Trump hasn't ruined the whole world yet. If he does, then I will feel really sad. But at this point, I'm kind of glad that he was elected because it's really shined a light on the hate that was, honestly, like this hatred, what we were seeing at the Charlie Kirk funeral, Stephen Miller's speech that was, I've listened now to the Nazi speech by Goebbels. It's exact word for word. Goebbels' speech was much longer. Stephen Miller condensed it. That stuff was always there. We just didn't see it. These people that are gathering together and spewing this hate, they've always been there. And you know that phrase, sunlight's the best disinfectant? Like, honestly, I'm not sad that we're seeing this stuff so that we can fight against it, because it's better to know that it's there and do something about it. Yeah, so now, crazy thing is there are Black people working at the Mormon church. Whenever I walk by the church, I see Black staff members cleaning. Yeah, so now Black people can join the Mormon church and go through the temple and everything. That changed in 1979, and it was kind of a slow burn where like it took a while, right? I just saw something. I think that one of my followers actually sent this to me, that the Mormon church, they do all of these like different art competitions where they ask people from all over the world to submit art to the church. And then like you win prizes and stuff, right? Like it's just a generic art competition for the Mormon church. And they did an art competition for Jesus, for images of Jesus. And I think that like 70% of the submissions that I saw online, Jesus was brown. Jesus was literally like a dark-skinned Kenyan man in traditional Kenyan dress. Jesus as a Japanese person, Jesus as a Native American. So the church has just had this art competition, and the Mormon church, and a lot of the images of Jesus were brown. So I actually think that that's a win. I think that with people speaking out against the racism in the Mormon church, I know that as an ex-Mormon, I can never completely collapse the Mormon church. I wish I could. I would do it in a second. But what I hope to do is to improve it. Most of us, Alyssa Grenfell, some of my other friends who are, Brett Hartley, some of my friends in the ex-Mormon sphere, and then the ex-religious sphere in particular, we know that we can't make Christianity go away, but we hope to improve it and make it safe for everybody. So the Mormon church is certainly changing. And yeah, they hire Black people now. Can I get a ramen? Okay, what else? Jesus, I might have said Jesus, and I usually call Jesus Yeshua because that was his name. And I was studying with a rabbi for a little while after I left the Mormon church, and he specialized in all of this ancient biblical text. And I remember him telling me that in Nazareth, where Jesus spent most of his time, Yeshua, I do believe in a historical Yeshua. I believe that there was probably an actual person that part of the Bible was based on. I do not believe that he was Lord and Savior, anything divine, anything like that. But this rabbi told me that in Nazareth, most people who had the name Yeshua were just called Yesh, and that would translate to Josh in English. So Jesus's name was Yesh or Josh. So why did I leave Christianity now? Because I simply don't believe that it's true. I don't see any evidence for it being true. And I just don't like it. I never want the Bible in my home. I don't want my children to read it. The idea that human beings are flawed and dirty and that we need some God figure out there to perfect us and make us better doesn't resonate with me. I think it's highly harmful. I'm more of a humanist. So yeah, I don't like it. It doesn't resonate with me. I don't like any of the story behind it, and I don't see any evidence for it. So yeah, let's just call him Josh from now on. Oh, is Josh an Indian name? Josh? Interesting. Yeah, let's help MAGA deconstruct. Okay. Lifelong agnostic. Hello. Thank you, Kelly, for subbing. Thank you. And sorry, I'm losing my voice today. I never take a day off, and I'm losing my voice too much. Okay, did you raise your children with religion? If so, do they resent you for it? Oh, great night. That's a hard topic. Yes, I raised my first batch of kids, my oldest kids, hardcore Mormon. So when I left the Mormon church, my oldest son had just come home from his Mormon mission. My oldest daughter was 18 years old, so she left the Mormon church with me. So she had been raised for 18 years of her life, hardcore Mormon. My next daughter was 14 at the time, Chloe. And then my son, my youngest, who's 16 now, was just 8. So Brody kind of missed out on having to be Mormon. He was only 8 years old when we left, but the other kids had all been raised super religious. And my daughter, who's 26 now, she definitely resents her religious life, holds it against me, and it makes her really mad to see my youngest son being raised by this kind, compassionate. I mean, imagine literally that should be its own video. Like, I should actually have my kids come on a video with me. I try to protect their privacy, but it'd be interesting to hear from my kids, because imagine being raised by a Christian nationalist, white supremacist, Mormon trad wife. Like, you can imagine what their life was like. And we lived in the big $1 million houses, and I was so strict with my kids. They weren't allowed to watch any TV on Sunday, and they couldn't like I'm trying to think about some of the things that they're really mad at me for. They could never do slumber parties, and so it was hard for them to socialize, because like on the weekends, all of their friends were having slumber parties, and I never let them. They can never go to anything on Sunday, and like all of their friends had birthday parties on Sundays, and we tried to obey the Sabbath, so I never let my kids go to church on Sundays, or to friends' birthday parties on Sundays. Yeah, my kids all resent. And so my oldest son is still LDS, but he's very nuanced. Like, he doesn't act to church, and he believes in the doctrine. My 26-year-old, she's agnostic. My 22-year-old just converted to Christianity, and she was atheist for like the whole time since we left the Mormon church. She's just converted to Christianity. And my 16-year-old is agnostic. I did tell all of my children when we left the Mormon church that I would not support them participating in religion until they were 18 years old. Then they could make that choice for themselves. And I do share with my kids my belief that there's no evidence for God or the gospel. Okay, sorry, let me be better at comments here. Okay, scientists have proven that the Bible is true. Nope, they haven't. That's such an echo chamber answer. Yeah, Tony, Yeshua is the same as Joshua. And my rabbi friend, when I was studying Judaism after leaving the Mormon church, my rabbi friend, who was a biblical scholar, said that in Nazareth, in the region where Jesus lived, that would have been shortened to Yesh, that most Yeshuas were called Yesh, so he would have been Josh. So, thank you, Lilith. Yeah, I think Jesus was real, a good, holy, healing man. I believe he was human, not the Son of God. Me too. And I have to say that when you take out the Old Testament and everything that Paul did and everything after, like just the core part of the Christian Bible, Yeshua is a very intriguing character. And if anyone had actually implemented his religion, it would have truly changed the world. He was a radical, he was a liberal, he spent his time with prostitutes and lepers and the woman at the well who she had like 7 husbands or whatever. He was a kind, compassionate rebel. And unfortunately, Christianity was then filtered through Rome and the Byzantine Empire, and then the Vikings and the British Empire. And we now have this filtered, colonizing form of Christianity that really is a parasite on society and is working hard to destroy America right now. So, well, thanks, Kay. Some of the things Jesus said. I like some of the things Jesus said too. So you have a Jefferson Bible for the 21st century. Oh, interesting. I'll have to read that. So I was talking about how I have 3 books in the works and my poor publisher is freaking waiting for me to get done with them, but I'm so busy all the time. One of them is actually a dystopian novel about homeless reservations. It's the first time I've ever mentioned anything about my book. That one is near completion. I should be working on it right now instead of being on a live. So I'm working on a book about that. I have my memoir that's one day going to be completed. And then my 3rd book that I've been working on is a completely non-religious Bible. It's called The Philosophy of Josh, where I just strip down the parables and the teachings of the historical Yeshua. And I'm sure that it's going to blow Christians up and they won't be happy. So anyway. Oh, thanks, Nat. My children thankfully have had 7 years away from my ex-husband. So, okay. It's crazy that they had to wait till 2 of the 12 apostles were not present to pass a revelation on lifting the priesthood ban. Yep. Yeah, the whole Mormon church lifting the priesthood ban is fairly suspect. So, absolutely. Okay, sorry, question from before. Love what you're doing. Thanks, thanks. Okay, hold on. Let me put this up here for us. Respectfully, what do you think lets you excuse racism more than homophobia while you're still in MAGA? What let me excuse racism more than homophobia? I didn't have any Black friends. I mean, it's as simple as that. I had lived in a Mormon bubble my whole entire life, and I had literally just never been around anyone that wasn't white. So I developed this compassion for LGBTQ people because I made lesbian friends. And I didn't go out of my way to make lesbian friends. I don't know if you guys have heard that story. I've talked about it in a couple of videos, but like any good Mormon girl, I had to have an MLM, right? So I joined this MLM. I was selling essential oils from home, and I had 3 lesbian couples sign up for my MLM. So it's not like I was necessarily friends with them, but like, okay, well, somebody signed up these lesbian couples. So now I guess like they're going to be coming to my classes and stuff. And we went to like the convention together and we were doing all this training together. So I spent tons of time with them. And it's funny how that I was so judgmental at first. It's like, oh my God, I cannot believe that I have these people in my downline. And then they became my favorite people in the entire world. Like, they were so kind. They were so loving. They were nicer to me than my Mormon friends or like anybody else, So I didn't go out of my way to like, hey, I'm going to just get to know some lesbians. I had lesbians sign up for my essential oil company downline. Somebody else had signed them up. I didn't sign them up. And then I interacted with them a ton. And when you connect with another human, it's really hard to hate them. It really is. So I think that if I had had some Black friends, if I had had, some Mexican friends, if I had known people of other races and been able to see that all of the propaganda that I had been taught by my community was a lie, then I wouldn't have been able to embrace and support the racism and the white supremacy anymore. So I left the Mormon Church in October of 2018, and I didn't believe the Book of Mormon was true anymore. But then I went right into a really toxic Christian congregation, not realizing it was toxic. And so I was still white supremacist. I was still racist. I was still all the things. But then in the ex-Mormon community, I pioneered ex-Mormon TikTok. So I was one of the very first creators on ex-Mormon TikTok. And I made like hundreds and hundreds of ex-Mormon friends. And some of them were Black. And it was the first time in my life that I ever had Black friends. And my Black friends were always calling me out on being racist. They're like, Jenny, like, you are so racist. And I remember after doing a collaboration with another ex-Mormon content creator who was Black, I remember him texting me afterwards and just being like, girl, you are like toxic AF. And so I was like, can you talk tomorrow? And I called him and I was like, I just don't understand. Like help me see what's wrong with what I think about things. And he's like, well, first of all, Adam and Eve and like white people came first. That's just wrong. And it's racist. Like Black people weren't cursed. And it was my Black friends in the ex-Mormon community who helped me deconstruct white supremacy. I didn't just like wake up like, oh, today I'm going to be a better person. I started making Black friends and they called me out on being racist. So who's Monty Mater? Let's see, what interviews do I have coming up? My documentary is supposed to drop in 2 weeks. Here, I'll make a note of Monty Mater. Well, I don't believe in the word demonic, Naya, but here, I'll put this comment up. Hi, Floyd. Thanks for watching. LDS is not real Christianity. White nationalism is not real Christianity. Floyd, I would say that Mormonism is probably better Christianity than a lot of Christian churches out there, especially some of the American Christian extremists that are out there. But I personally, having studied multiple different Christian religions, and most of my life today is spent studying religions and the impact of religion, working with law groups also that take cases from people that have been harmed by religions. I don't think that there's a Christian church currently on the planet that is truly emulating what the Rabbi Yeshua was teaching. So I don't think that any Christian churches are Christian. So here, I want to just reply to this comment too. You did it to yourself. No one has power over you. Childhood indoctrination and brainwashing is power. So there's nobody in the world that can withstand childhood indoctrination from birth. That's how people join cults. Childhood indoctrination will get you every time. Oh, I like this question. What should someone look for in a partner? I'm so hopeless to see videos upon videos on how men are not it. What does a healthy relationship look like? So that's actually what my whole channel on TikTok was for a long time. And when I started over here on YouTube, it was supposed to be all couple stuff. So I was just going to do relationship videos with Kevin. And it's funny because now I've morphed into something else. And I guess this is, I don't know. There's a lot of good relationship people out there. I think that relationships should be equal and supportive and beautiful partnerships with a lot of compatibility. Kevin and I grew up with really similar backgrounds. He was raised fairly strict religious in his Lutheran home, and just so many similarities. The chores that we had to do, how social our families were, a lot of our family traditions, going on vacations and different things like that. We just had really similar backgrounds. And then we spent 20 years of our life living within 2 miles of each other and not even knowing each other. Kevin and I have been together for almost 7 years. But the reason I have such a happy relationship is that Kevin is a supportive partner. He's always there for me. We're supportive of one another. And I don't know, I think there are a lot of really good people out there. There's amazing people out there. Don't get discouraged about relationships. I love one of my content creator friends over on TikTok is oh, what is she on TikTok? Her book is No More Assholes. 10 out of 10 recommend. Some of her pointers on how to pick a good partner are absolutely amazing. Okay. Keep your relationship off the internet, please. Nice. Some of your comments I just like question. If we can't come to one another online and talk about, that's a very sexist comment, in fact, because a lot of women still don't work around the world, and our relationships and our parenting is a lot of our lives. So that's fairly misogynistic to say to keep your relationship off the internet. Okay. Do you guys want me to read some more of the white supremacist? I'm in the middle of a divorce from a 30-year marriage. Okay, anyone who's getting divorced, can I just share with you this one little thing? I don't know how many of my videos you've watched, but I'm called Life Take Two because leaving the church, leaving my religious community, leaving everything, and then divorcing my husband. He left me, I didn't leave him, but going through my divorce after 24 years of being married at age 44 was so overwhelming that I didn't even want to be here anymore. And I look back a lot on 7.5 years ago. I literally decided I could not go on. That's why I'm called Life Take Two. I survived. And I look back now and it's like, if I had just realized that, yeah, my life was going to hit rock bottom, it was going to be really hard, but there were better days ahead. Yeah, I just wish that I had known that. So hang in there, and you definitely are going to hit some rock bottom. Going through divorce is one of the hardest things that a person can go through. And in some ways, like I had some really close friends that were widowed around the time that I was getting divorced. And my widow friends like emotionally healed faster. First of all, a lot of them had the financial resources. They had life insurance, they had alimony, they had, or not alimony, they had life insurance, they had inheritances, things like that, so that they didn't struggle with the financial things. But my widow friends were all like, Doug is in heaven. Nathan is in heaven with Jesus, right? They all had this like, he's in a better place. My ex-husband was a mile away living with a woman that he was cheating on me with. And it was really hard to just deal with the grief of divorce. So if you're going through a divorce, that stuff is hard. It's one of the hardest things that a human can go through, but it gets better. It gets better. Divorce can be like literally the best thing that a person can go through. And it sounds crazy, but what hobbies do I enjoy? Thank you for asking. Mostly hiking. I love hiking. I love music. I run a social media company. So I do social media management and content creation for small businesses. I'm really selective about who my clients are. And one of the companies that I manage is like a country bar. So every Saturday night we go and listen to country music and do a little dancing. They have free concerts every Saturday night. So thank you for the super chat. This channel should be mandatory for all girls. Yeah, I love music. I love food, but anything nature, like I'm kind of not an indoor cat. I'm an outdoor cat. So do I have 87,000 subs now? I haven't even looked. Yeah, my family was less racist than my ex-husband's family, and that's because he was from Arkansas and my family's from Scottsdale, Arizona, and Portland, Oregon. So part of that was just cultural. I don't think the Bible is against abortion. And when I studied Judaism with a rabbi, the rabbi pointed out that in Judaism, there are actually provisions for abortion, and there are times when even like abortion is suggested. So I can't speak for all of Judaism. I just studied with that one rabbi. But Yeah, it's such great exercise. And it's like exercise for the soul. I went on a hike this morning. Kevin had strep throat. So he's been home for the past couple days and he's been doing all of my laundry. He's been doing all of the housework for me so that I can work. And he couldn't go back to school until today. So he couldn't go back until lunchtime today. So we went on a little hike this morning. It was so nice. So nice. I was wondering, why did I specifically dislike Baptist? Because it was hateful towards other people. Every Baptist church that I went to just really promoted a lot of hate, and I'm not about hating other people or judging other people. Thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. What's your take on people who are trying to sway this nation into a war between liberals and conservatives to the death of Charlie Kirk? I just finished listening to almost the entire Charlie Kirk funeral. That's what I've been up to. You guys, I only get like 5 hours of sleep a night. I go to bed at about midnight. I wake up at 5 so that I can listen to whatever's going on, make sure that I'm up to date on everything, and then start scripting whatever I'm going to do for the day. And that Charlie Kirk funeral has shook me. I was in Phoenix. I didn't go to the funeral, but I was there. I'm from Arizona. Erica Kirk grew up in Scottsdale in my hometown. She's about 20 years younger than me, I think. I don't know. I'm 51. I'm not sure how old Erica Kirk is. Isn't she like 36 or something? There were people leaving the funeral and coming into the restaurant and some of the places that Kevin and I were. And every one of these people, I don't know, they just looked wild to me. They looked a little bit unhinged, like there was some anger that they had absorbed from this funeral. I don't understand why this is happening. I don't understand exactly the motivation, like why at this time have all of the Christian nationalists decided to wage a war against the liberals. I know that there has been a war against everything that's not Christian nationalism from like the beginning, but I'm not sure why at this moment they're deciding that this is the time. I do have, I don't know. Is Charlie really dead? Did that really happen? Yeah, I don't think that any of us can even guess why anybody's doing this right now. I don't understand why Charlie Kirk's death was turned into this. It shouldn't have been. So, I don't know. I don't talk conspiracies. I just keep them in my head. Okay, divorce advice. My sister is going through a divorce. Let me put this up. Foreign country, can't leave due to her kids. Oh no. How do you give your sister hope? Just let her know that 2 years from now, she'll be so glad it happened. I don't know. I didn't have hope, and then my life got better. Like, yeah, it's gonna hit rock bottom. She'll be fine. Tell her, hold in there. Hold on, she'll be fine. In what country? Yeah, so my social media clients, you guys, it has been a long week. What is a clients? Anyway, my social media clients are all small businesses, and I have certain parameters. I won't support certain types of businesses. Like I would never work for like a gun business or anything that's like harmful to women. I don't know. So mostly women-owned businesses. I do have one social media client that is it's a restaurant that's owned by a man, and he's just so sweet and so supportive. Yes, I think seriously about leaving the US every single day. We have Googled, we actually have a backup plan. Our kids know exactly where we're going to go and how to get there and like where they need to go, what to do next, and what the address is that we're going to. So I don't want to share that, but we do absolutely have a backup plan. And I don't know, I would love to leave the US, but I'd be leaving grandbabies. If I didn't have grandkids and a community of people around me, I would maybe do Italy because I need somewhere warm, and I feel like Italian is fairly easy to learn. What about you guys? Would you go somewhere? Some of the English-speaking countries like Ireland is just too cold. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I made a note of Monty. I'll reach out. Thank you. General audience says I'm articulate and organized. Clearly, I'm not on a live, but I'll get better. I'll pop on more often. I discovered you 2 days ago. Thank you. Thank you. I will warn you, Lady Gaga, that binge watching my content is a lot. So have a box of Kleenex and keep your blood sugar up. Martin, I'm so jealous of people who've never been religious. I've seen a recent video about Steve Miller's speech and your explanation. So I just have to tell you guys that I had other things I was supposed to do this morning. I was going to script a video response to that. 2 seconds into that speech, he had said like 8 words, and I was hysterically sobbing because I understand everything that he's saying. If you haven't watched the Steve Miller speech yet, I would encourage everyone, not encourage, please, please, I am begging you, go watch the Steve Miller speech. The fact that he took that opportunity to wage war on people, and everybody says that it's just like the Goebbels speech, who was a Nazi leader. He was a Nazi propagandist, and it absolutely is. Goebbels was much longer. I think it was 38 minutes or something like that. I've listened to it through a couple times now, and it is word for word. Some little phrases are lifted. Obviously, Steve Miller's is much shorter. Here's what hit me, though. That Goebbels speech, they were at war. They were fighting Russia. They were fighting everybody. Like there was an actual war. Steve Miller gives his speech here in my hometown this weekend about this war and this fight. And who is the fight against? It's against people in America. We're not fighting Russia. We're not fighting Mexico. We're not fighting China. We're not fighting anybody. He was using the same language that was being used in the middle of World War II against people in America in a peaceful time. His speech absolutely terrified me. Yeah, nature is very healing. Okay, what else? I studied everything. So when I left the Mormon church, I was like, I need to discover God. I want to have a relationship with God. So I didn't want to just read about it. I sat down with a rabbi. Like I found a rabbi nearby and I was like, hey, I want to study Judaism. And I'm like an auditory learner. I'm a verbal learner. So I need to be able to sit down and ask questions. So I went to synagogue and learned as much as I could about Judaism, and I didn't feel like it was the religion for me. And I studied Islam. I read parts of the Quran. The Quran is so big and so much to it, so hard to understand. But I studied the Quran and I attended Muslim mosque for a while, and that was definitely not the religion for me. I studied Buddhism. I went to a Buddhist temple. I worked with some people at the Buddhist temple, just asking so many questions for several weeks. And that was, I think Buddhism is beautiful. I think that secular Buddhism, embracing some of those concepts and bringing them into your life, has been really valuable. And I studied all sorts of different Christian religions. I just ended up in another Christian church. So, and now I'm atheist. Oh, I studied with a Navajo for a while who was teaching me the Navajo religion. I live in Arkansas, agree with the racism part. Yeah. We were in just outside of Smackover in Camden. What is my favorite? My favorite food? Anything potatoes. I don't know if it's that little bit of fish in me, but I've never met a potato that I don't love. Mashed potatoes, French fries. Namaste. Yeah, I did study Buddhism. One of my best friends is Buddhist. So I studied Buddhism exhaustively. Oh, wow. Baptist with rainbow flag. That's interesting. I'm almost 52. I think the chubby cheeks. I did have a comment this morning on one of my videos that said your content is as bad as your facelift. And I don't have a facelift. I just think I have chubby cheeks. And I was Mormon, so I never smoked or drank. You know what I mean? Thanks, guys. Yeah, you should be terrified. So, Elena, I don't even know like how to explain the people coming out of the Charlie Kirk thing without just sounding mean, because I'm not. Like, I hold space for everybody to have their own beliefs. I always try to connect with everyone around me. Like, I don't care if you're MAGA, I don't care where you're coming from. I understand that we all have reasons why we're on the path that we're on. So, I don't want to sound mean, but the people that I saw marching into the restaurant that Kevin and I were at after the Charlie Kirk funeral, they were all wearing like the Turning Point USA t-shirts and stuff. They all just looked pissed. Like hordes of people, these families with like, you know, the little blonde mom and the dad with the beard and like the Dockers shorts and all these little kids, like so many kids and stuff. And they just looked angry. I don't know. They didn't look happy about life. Okay. Yeah, Trump has allowed hate speech, and honestly, like we have this trickle down where I feel like the person at the top kind of sets the tone in so many ways. There's never been another presidency where we have cared about the president more than with Donald Trump. And I know that I relate everything to my ex-husband, Jake, but my ex-husband, Jake, has some mental challenges and deeply narcissistic, sociopathic. Everything was always about him. Everything was always about him. It could be my birthday party. It was about Jake. We could go on a family vacation. The whole entire family vacation was just Jake, 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 Jake. He had to have control over everybody. He had to have the spotlight on him 24/7, right? And I just feel like, well, that's President Trump. Like, I learned so much about Donald Trump from my ex-husband, Jake. He always has to have all the attention on him. And we have never had a president who, like, I think, I don't know, to go into politics, do you have to be just a little bit narcissistic, like a little bit of a pick-me person? I don't know, because I don't know a lot of politicians, but I feel like something has to motivate you to feel okay, to feel confident enough to stand in front of people and be a leader. Maybe that's not true. That's not based on any science or anything. That's just Jenny's opinion. But so maybe some other presidents have been a little bit narcissistic. Donald Trump just takes the cake, doesn't he? And so he gets into office and he's like, every day I want people to be focused on me for the next 4 years. And then he's going to make it the law that he gets to be the president until he dies. Isn't that where we're going with all of this? Like, have you guys ever, can you remember a presidency where we are constantly talking about the president? I can't. Yeah, I'm afraid of that too. The empire is falling. Politics is old men talking and young men dying. Oh, wow. That's Marcus Aurelius of Rome. Yeah. Yeah, like every day it's like you just turn on the news, like what did he do now? Like the Epstein files and just, oh, we're changing the Gulf of America or the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. And I want Greenland and I want Canada. Oh yeah, I saw that the golf course assassin was found guilty. Yep, I saw that. Yeah, you guys all know. Like, even if you weren't married to like a sociopath or whatever, we all have that one person in our life that's narcissistic and everything revolves around them all the time. Like, you cannot sit down to dinner without that person being like, look at me, look at me, look at me. And I know this is ironic because I'm a social media person. I'm not actually a social media person. I'm a women's rights activist who left the Mormon church and left MAGA and was pissed off enough to take out my camera and start doing this. And it's weird and it makes everybody who knows me in real life actually like stunned because I'm so shy. I'm the shyest, like I want to stand behind somebody. I don't want to be out there public speaking. I don't want a microphone. I never want to stand up in front of anybody ever. And yet this is what I do. So for me, like, those narcissists were always very curious to me. Like, why would anyone want to be the center of attention? But we all have those. And now that guy is our president. He's such an attention whore, isn't he? Like, Donald Trump is the ultimate attention whore. Yeah, narcissistic psychopaths are the reason for a lot of human suffering. And here's the thing about them that's really tricky here. I'm going to turn this one light off because my eye strain. Is that creepy? Do I look like I'm in a haunted house now? This light over here is just making my eyes hurt so bad. We're just going to go with it for now. The narcissist, the charismatic narcissist, is so charming. They come along and you feel like they're going to give you everything, right? Like when I first met my ex-husband, it was an arranged marriage, it was a forced marriage, but still he intrigued me. Like, he was one of these, like, hey baby, you're the prettiest thing in the world, and he'd buy me roses and chocolates until he didn't anymore. But these guys come in because they really believe that they can save the day, that they can save the world, they're going to make everything better, and they can't. You know, they're just people. But people fall for Donald Trump because of that. He comes in like, I'm going to make America great again. We're going to save the world. And he's just a run-of-the-mill, charismatic narcissist. And we just voted him into the Oval Office. It's bizarre. Okay, thank you. So it's not terrible. Okay, I was going to click on this one here. The best leaders would be the ones that want nothing to do with power, right? Right? Like, they just want to lead for the sake of leading. I've been saying this in a couple of my videos. If we want to change the world, go get your political science degree, get your law degree, and run for office. We need better leaders because we've had a lot of crappy leaders for a really long time. I was watching a documentary about Reagan, and it's shocking how much Trump has modeled himself. Yet he's just like an angry Reagan. Okay. I'm going to abandon reading the rest of my article, and I'm going to hop off because I'm podcasting at 6 a.m. tomorrow, and I need to go let my voice rest, and I'm going to go work on my book for a little bit. So thank you guys for hanging out, and I'll come on live again another time. This was an experiment to see how I liked it. I definitely realized I need my reading glasses because the comments are too small because I'm a grandma. So, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you guys. Okay, Adam says he likes my live streams. I didn't do the worst job in the world. Thank you so much. I do have a guest coming on with me. This week, here's your homework. Let's start some targeted boycotts. I'm not going to Walmart currently, and yeah, I need to go to Walmart, but I'm trying to find other solutions for that. And more than anything, sometimes it's like, stop this, do that. Start supporting local businesses as much as you can. If you're shopping for gifts, if you're buying food, go to the farmers markets. I go to a heritage farmers market that it guarantees that it's actual farmers that are growing this stuff. I've been to some of their actual farms. So do as much as you can to pull the rug out from under the billionaires and the millionaires. I've been boycotting Amazon for almost 7 years now. There's just a couple of times that I buy things from Amazon. Actually, I feel like I bought something from Amazon last week. And it was a big deal, and I was going to do a video about it because it's like I broke my Amazon boycott. What was it? So yeah, that's our homework this week. Let's do some targeted pulling the rug out from under the billionaires as much as we can. Write to your senators, write to everybody, let them know that you're concerned about what's going on, and impeach Trump is our message to our representatives. If you can send a letter to your representatives, specifically President Trump and Junior, J.D. Vance, have broken their oath of office by waging war on part of their citizenry. It's an impeachable act. So, all right. I'm actually going to go sit out here and write my book. Just outside of my apartment, I have these giant, huge trees. They've been here since 1983, and they got some type of a fungal infection. So they're these huge pine trees. They're massive, huge trees. And the guys are out there cutting them down. So I watched them, like this huge tree come down yesterday. So I'm going to go sit out here and work on my book and watch the pine trees get cut down. So, all right, guys, thanks so much. Have a great day.